All right, I think we're live now. Homework last night, you had 3 of them that you did by graphing, typing in your calculator. On the 2 that you used substitution, the biggest mistake on the test, and I don't know if you did this or not when you did it, but looking at like number 14, okay, once you solve for your 2 x values, you got x equals 0 and you got x equals 7. Once you do that, remember your answers are coordinate points. So you then have to go in and find each of those y values when x is 0 and when x is 7. So just make sure you finish the problem. Okay? It's a coordinate point where that line intersects that circle. Any questions at all on the homework? Nope. Okay, well, now we're going to start graphing quadratic inequalities. So tell me about a quadratic. What do you remember about graphing a quadratic? It's a U. If A is positive, it opens up. If A is negative, it opens down. Okay? If it's in the form y equals ax squared plus bx plus c, what is the axis of symmetry? What's the formula? Negative b over 2a. And then how do you find the vertex? After you do that, how do you find the vertex? Well, you have the what? X value, right? And then you just take that x value and plug it in here to find what? Y. Do you remember doing that? Okay. What is the y-intercept? The y-intercept is the point what? 0, C. Okay. So do we kind of remember graphing quadratics a little bit? We'll review it again, but are we okay with some of this? That's if we're given standard form. Remember, if you are given this form, which is vertex form, don't FOIL it out. That's way too much work, okay? You can say which way it went. Did it flip? Was it open up, open down? If A is positive, it opens up. If A is negative, it opens down. That tells us how much vertical stretch or shrink we have. Doesn't affect my vertex. Then I can say which way did it go, right or left, and did it go up or down. That will help you to get your vertex. Once you get your vertex, so once we know what our vertex is, and you say, okay, my vertex is this point, how do you know what your axis of symmetry is? You would say it's just this number, right? X equals that number. So hopefully you guys remember that a little bit. So we went through here and we're talking about all of this. Quadratic inequality in 2 variables, x and y, can be written in one of the following forms. We are now going to graph an inequality. So now we're not graphing equations. We've already done that. Now we're graphing an inequality. So you may remember when you graphed a linear inequality. Okay, what's my y-intercept? 2. What's my slope? What's my slope? What's the number multiplied by x? 1. So I'd go up 1, over 1, up 1, or down into the left. Now, the only thing is, based off of my sign, I have to ask myself, do I have a dashed or a solid line? Oh, do you remember that? How do I know if I have dashed or solid? Good. If it's just less than or just greater than, it's what? Dashed. If it's less than or equal to or greater than or equal to, it's what? Solid, because it includes those points. So this one would be what? Dashed. Now, if it's in the form y equals, or y in this case is what? Less than, you then have to shade. Y is all the numbers what? Less than. So less than would be under the line. Well, now we're not going to graph a line. We're going to graph a U. So you graph your boundary parabola using the methods we've already learned and I just reviewed. If it's Less than or greater than, you dash it. If it's less than or equal to or greater than or equal to, you solid. And then you determine which way to shade. So that's what all of this says. Okay? Let's just go ahead and do a problem. So let's talk about, first of all, what form is this one in? Well, it's a quadratic. Is it in standard form or vertex form? Standard. Okay, so McKennan's not here. Jared, does it open up or open down? Okay, he says it opens up. No, it doesn't.
Down.
Why is it open down?
I don't know.
Because I said up. What can you tell me about A?
Negative.
So if it's negative, it does what?
Goes down.
Goes down. Okay, it opens down, so we know that. So now we're going to find the axis of symmetry. What's that formula again, Jared?
2b or b over
Negative
b over
b.
2a.
Negative b over 2a. So what's the opposite of b?
Negative b.
Okay, what's b?
Negative 2.
So what's the opposite of b? Or what's negative b?
Negative or 2.
Okay. Over 2 times what?
A.
Which is?
Negative 1.
Do you see what I was doing there? Okay, so it's 2 times negative 1.
Negative 2.
And what is 2 divided by negative 2?
Negative 1.
Now remember, you always write it as the equation x equals negative 1. Because this is the vertical line. I'm doing that real light. The vertical line that cuts that parabola in half. I just dashed that real light. All right. How do I then go on to find the vertex? So, Jack, what do I do then to find the vertex? You know the x-coordinate, it's what? So you just take this negative 1 value and you do what? Plug it in for all the x's. So I'm going to grab my calculator. Now, guys, when you plug it in, it's negative, and then x is negative 1 squared. So that's the way you would write this. Minus 2 times negative 1 minus 1. So I want to make sure you guys get this entered properly. Okay, so Jack, when you get it, let me know what you got for the vertex. What'd you get, Jack? Don't be perplexed. What is it? It's a
0.
Yeah, it's 0. Did you guys get 0? Yeah. So it's the point negative 1, 0. And then, Jack, last question for you is, what is the y-intercept?
-1.
Okay, so it's the point 0, negative 1. All right, so I'm going to plot those 2 points on here. So the vertex is at negative 1, 0, so over 0, or over 1, up 0. And the y-intercept is over 0, down 1. Now, I could reflect this point over here, so I'm just going to go ahead and do that. How many points do I usually tell you you need to have? 5. Okay. So what other point do you guys want to pick to round out our points on this graph? Okay, 1. And now you take 1 and you put 1 into this equation. So I'm going to do negative 1 squared minus 2 times 1 minus 1. And what do you guys all get when you put 1 into that formula? Do you guys get negative 4? Negative 4. Okay, so over 1, down 4. Does that make sense? I mean, are our points making sense for this parabola? It's opening down. It looks symmetrical. It looks good. Doesn't look wonky at all. Okay, now we got to ask ourselves, is my parabola dashed or is it solid? It's dashed. Why? Because it's just what? Less than. So I'm going to come here and I'm going to dash my U. And then I will never say shade inside or outside, ever, because it depends if it opens up or if it opens down. I'm always going to say, do you shade above or below? Well, this says y is what? Less than. So less than is below. So in this case, below would be here. Questions? So any point in that shaded region is a solution to your inequality. Thoughts? You know. Any questions on this first one? I changed this one. Huh. That's interesting. I wonder if I meant to change that one. I must have. All right, let's try this one. Okay. I'm gonna.
Yours doesn't say plus 15.
Does yours say plus 15?
Yeah.
Okay, that's why I was like, okay, I thought I changed it. Okay, plus 15. That's why I was confused. That looks better. Okay, so we'll add 15. Thank you for, I have to change that on the notes. So, Julian, does it open up or open down? Opens down. How do you find the axis of symmetry? Okay, she says negative b over 2a. So what are you going to plug in? So that's 2 over. So what's the axis of symmetry? X equals negative 1. Very good. Axis of symmetry. So I'm going to come over here to negative 1 and dot. All right. Quinn, help me with my vertex. How are you going to find your vertex then? Plug it back in. We know it's negative 1 something. We got to find the y. He says plug it back in. So negative 1 squared minus 2 times negative 1 minus 15. What'd you get? Ooh, that can't be right. Thank you, I did. Thank you. Second entry, so it should be plus 15. Thank you, AJ, for telling me that. Plus, and now what do we get? Did you guys see what I did to fix that?
Yeah.
Well, you guys can go up and get to that up there. I have to go second entry. You can do it either. Well, I went to one more because I already did it. But
16.
Did you guys get positive 16 when you went out, right? Okay. Last question for you, Quinn. What is the y-intercept?
0, 15.
0, 15. Okay, so you can tell this graph is probably y. Can I go by 1s on x and go by 2s on the y? Yeah, you're allowed to do that. 14, 16. Okay, so my vertex is at negative 1, 16. My y-intercept is here at 15, so I'm going to reflect that. What other point do you guys want to find? 1. I would do 1 or negative 2, either way. When you guys plug in 1. What do you guys get when you plug in 1? Everybody? You get 12? So that means that point is here. So I'm going to come over here. So yeah, that makes sense. Is it dashed or solid? Why is it dashed? Just greater than. And since it's greater than, which way do you shade? Above. Above is above. It's here. This is above. So any point out here in this shaded region would be a solution. All right, so what do you guys think about the first two? Are we good? Okay, next two. Remember in Algebra 1, you might have had a system of equations. If you had a system, we did what? Overlapped them. What's this one's y-intercept? -1. What's the slope? Down 1 over 2. Up 1 over 2. Dash your solid. Solid. And then which way does this one shade? Above. So the final shaded region was where they did what? Overlap. Oops, it's not. Where they overlapped. So this area in here would be the final shaded region. So any point where it is both green and red. Do you remember doing that as Algebra 1 students? Well, now we're not going to have two lines that intersect. We're going to have two views, two parabolas that intersect. So the process is exactly the same. Now, I am not going to go through all of that mess that I just did for this first graph. This first graph, because it does not have a B term, tells me a lot of things. Okay, does it open up or does it open down? Okay, so I'm going to write this one here since this is my... Okay, it opens down and it's shifted which way? Up 3. Do you guys see that? Opens down and it goes up 3. So shifts up 3 and opens down. Now, some of you know the pattern with the points. If you do, you can put them on. If you don't, I would pick the point 1 and 2 and put it in there. I wouldn't even grab my calculator. What's 1 squared? What's -1 plus 3? 2. What's 2 squared? What's -4 plus 3? Okay, some of you know that these ones will be 1 away, and this will be, 4 away from the vertex. But if you don't know that, make your table values. Okay? Is this one dashed or solid? Dashed. Now draw your parabolas kind of long. If you make them small, you're not going to see the points of intersection very well. And since this one was less than, which way does this one shade? Down. So shade very lightly, because this is where, and some of you won't shade, some of you will just put little arrows, or some of you will just shade your final region, and I'm okay with that. I want to see the final region. I'm just doing this for my notes. Okay, are we good with the first graph? So use the ones that you can look at and say, opens down, went up 3, boom, done. Now this one we can't tell. This one's in standard form. So this one I have some work to do. Okay, this one I have to say, okay, y is greater than or equal to x squared plus 2x minus 3. Does this open up or down? Opens up. I'm going to find the axis of symmetry. So I'm just going to do x equals opposite of b over 2a. What's the opposite of b? -2 over 2 times. Okay, what's 2 times 1? And what's -2 over 2? We keep getting the same axis of symmetry, don't we? It's x equals what? -1. So I'm going to very lightly come over here and do my axis of symmetry. How do I find the vertex? Plug back x back in. So I know my vertex is -1 something. Let's find the something. You must have -1 squared in parentheses when you square it, plus 2 times -1 minus 3, or do it in your head. -1 squared is 1. 2 times -1 is -2. Minus 3, what'd you guys all get? Should have got -4. Did you guys get -4? So my vertex is -1, -4. We know this is opening up. What's your y-intercept? Y-intercept is what? It's always C. It's at -3. So I'm going to reflect that point. I need one more point. What value are you guys going to use? I'd use 1. Okay. So when you guys plug in 1, that becomes 1 plus 2 minus 3. What'd you guys get? 0. Okay. So over 1 up 0, reflect it. Is this one dashed or solid? Solid. Which way do I shade this one? Up. Okay. I'm going to shade this one up. I should probably not have used the blue. I gotta. Okay. What's above and below on this one? That's a great question. What is above or below? Okay, let's see if this works. So I'm going to do above, which is this way. So where did they overlap? Do you guys, can you see? Now I need to clearly see on your answer key that they overlapped where? In here. This is my final shaded region. So again, I don't care if you don't graph the original 2 or don't shade the original 2 and just shade your final, or put little arrows and just shade your final, or use colored pencils. That's awesome. But I need to clearly see where that final shaded region is. Make it light. Okay? Thoughts? All right, one more. Here, dive. Okay. Well, can you guys tell me about the top graph? Is this one easy to graph?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, what are we going to do? Down 4. So it's just the parent function shifted. It's my little one, but you can, it'll work. Okay, so this first one, guys, this is easy. You don't have any much to do. You're going to say parent function shifted down 4. If you know your parent function, and I didn't have to do any other work. I know the parent function. And I know that it's, they're over 1, then up. There. All right. Now, dashed or solid? Dashed. And which way would this one shade if it's greater than? Up. Okay. So this one, I'm just kind of going to put little arrows. Okay. So I know. That might be confusing, but we'll see how this works. Okay? That way. Fractions? Is it a fraction?
Yeah.
Huh, okay, cool. So on this one, axis of symmetry, opposite of B, so that's what? -3 over 2 times 1, so that's -3 over 2. So what'd you get? I mean, it is a fraction, but it's negative what?
Yeah, it should be -2.
You're right. Opposite of B over 2A. So what'd you guys get? 3 halves. But what is 3 halves? 1.5. So I would just put 1.5 because I have to graph that.
Yeah.
So X has a you have your asymptote at 1.5. So coming over here, lightly graphing my asymptote. Not asymptote. You guys will learn asymptotes later. That's coming next chapter. Axis of symmetry. You guys are like, what's Mrs. Neville talking about? Excited to learn about those? Ooh. Okay. How about vertex? Plug it back in. Negative, and then the 1.5 is on the inside. Plus 3 times 1.5 plus 4. What do we get? 6.25. Okay, did you guys see on my board up there I said that the vertices are not pretty? I think that's like this. Oh. Oh, so everybody's calculator's dying. Okay, over 1.5 up 6.25. Okay, what's your y-intercept? 4. So since this is a half, I'm over 1.5. I can go over 1.5. Now I need one more value. What do you guys want to pick as another value? I would pick something out further, like -1 or 4. Those are the same. Okay, so pick -1. Put -1 in there. See what you guys get. Just because if you pick +1, it's just that's so small. It's going to be in between these 2 points, so it's going to be really small. So let's pick -1. So -1 squared plus 3 times -1 plus 4. And what do we get? 0. Okay, that's a good number. -1, 0. And then I'm going to come over here and reflect that. Is this one dashed or solid? Solid. Which way do you shade since it is less than or equal to? We're going to shade what? Down. Okay, so you guys can kind of see. I don't love doing the arrow thing, but maybe you can see. So where's your final shaded region? Right there, he says. Right there, in the middle. All right, questions. Okay, your vertices tonight are not pretty numbers. Okay, when you graph them, don't be in panic mode if you get decimals. You're going to get decimals. You don't like decimals, do you?
No.
Okay. 1 through 4, 8, 10, 22, and 24. I don't think you're graphing all of them. I was just going to look real quick because that feels like a lot. Yeah, the first 4 are matching. Okay. First 4 are matching.